Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Amber, and this is Julie, and we are bringing you as much as we possibly can share about PBIS. So I want to introduce Julie. I met her a couple years ago at our Lake Will's Charter Back to School Bash, and her energy was absolutely contagious. I was like, oh my gosh, this person is so excited about teaching. Whoa. And I got to know her a little bit while we were doing our presentation. She is a 16-year veteran educator. So she is over that hump of she's fully vested in this as a career. And she is now on the downward slope towards retirement, which sounds so far away. So she has her master's degree. She has worked in various locations. She's been in different schools around the area. And right now she is at Lake Wales High School as an academic and student support coach, but she also helps really in any other way. She has been our department chair. She's been an AP of a magnet school, an instructional coach now. And she just got, I think, such a great achievement, which is the Lake Wales Charter School Support Person of the Year. And so she just captured that award in the last little bit. So that's pretty cool. She lives in Lake Wales. She's married. She has two kids, two boys, in a really fun young age. So she has locked herself in her room with the door shut and has been on kid watch because it is all about you guys right now. So had to introduce her. She's a very wonderful person. And now it's your turn.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, Amber, I don't know if I can match that, but I will say if anyone can match my energy, it is you. From the moment we met, like you said, I could just tell we could match one another, go head to head. It has been so fun putting this presentation together because you are such an active go-getter that anything that we're just spitballing with one another, you're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go and grab this. I love that. We're a really good pair in a lot of ways. Amber is a second career educator. So she spent a multitude of years in kind of the corporate realm. She has an MBA, which is fantastic. I came through a traditional education program. This is kind of all I know. So we're a great pair that way. She is a Lake Wales native. So when we talk about being invested in this community and knowing this community and our school systems and coming up through them, Amber is a fantastic source of knowledge where I am a transplant, also a mom of two. She gives me hope for the future. Her kids are a little bit older than mine, that one day they will be self sufficient, which is fantastic. And just everything that we have worked on together, I have been so impressed with. She's currently a dean of students at Bach Academy South. But that just, we know we wear so many hats. That's just one of the many hats. And so it's similar to what I do, wherever there's a need, whatever needs to get done, Amber is the first person that people turn to. And her reputation, if you don't know her, you'll get to know her because she has a fabulous reputation that far precedes her. And just people speak so highly of her that, again, when we had this opportunity to collaborate, I think it's safe to say neither of us could wait for that. So we're super excited to talk about PBIS today. And all the things that we know many of our teachers are doing in their classrooms, and that we're doing as a system that really makes Lake Wales Charter Schools stand apart from other schools. So we're going to kind of get into it today. What do you think?
I just put up a slide that Julie made. So if you want to explain kind of what this slide's about, you'll be doing it in person if you are at our um, Thursday training. But if you are joining us online, which many of you are, tell us about what this represents.
Yeah, so obviously the topic of our presentation is PBIS. And PBIS really works to support and to supplement classroom management. The systems that you've already set up, it works to reinforce and incentivize expectations and procedures. PBIS is not just about engagement or doing something that's fun always, but it's about providing those additional supports to the structure of your classroom. So this is an example of a do now. or a bell ringer that you might have in your classroom. I actually stole this particular one. So if you click on the URL or scan the QR code from a teacher at the high school. But what I changed or what I added for this particular activity is the phrase your task. Instead of putting directions on the board, I always make an emphasis on the phrasing your task to my students. Because in doing that, it lets my students know that the expectation in my classroom is that they are always working. And so it's reinforcing that expectation. There is always work to be done. They always have a task. There is something to do all the time. So this wording of your task really reinforces that expectation already. And so that's just something as we talk about PBIS, I wanted to emphasize from the beginning that it should support, it should reinforce, it should emphasize what you already have in place in your classroom. It is not a standalone system. It is not something that just pops in and out. It is something that works in conjunction with what you've already established in terms of procedures and policies and structure of your classroom. So it is there to support your classroom management.
So should I get my phone out now and scan it and fill in the info really quick?
If you wanted to, but we can, for the sake of time, people can play around with it if they want on their own. It's kind of fun. It uses a platform called Padlet. And Padlet's really cool. It's a free program and it's an interactive way to get students talking in class where they can display their thoughts or their feedback or their responses in really creative ways. It's got some really super cool AI features. So in terms of creativity and letting your students think in different ways, there's all sorts of things with Padlet. The free version is great. You get 3 free Padlets. And this is not a plug. I'm not endorsed by Padlet or anything. I mean, teachers got to have a side hustle, but what's really cool is that the workaround with this, if anyone wants to try it out, is you just delete your Padlets. And so you can always like have a new 3 and then you won't get charged for it. So it's super cool if you want to play around with it.
Okay. I am going to check that out. I've done some assignments on Padlet before, and it's a way to be like in real time and sort of collaboration based. So I love it too. So something that I always like to ask if I am sitting in a training, it's like, what's in it for me? Like, why am I spending my very limited time on anything? So we're going to try and talk a little bit about classroom management, but a lot about how it helps you, how it makes things more efficient, how it's proactive, how it's all of these different things. And so PBIS is going to be infused mostly into classroom management, and students need to feel safe wherever they are, but especially at school. Sometimes they are a safe place. So just going to go over couple different ways that you can use PBIS in the classroom. I came from an elementary background when I switched careers, and I did a lot of hands-on type things. So I had clip charts and I had color things where you're like, if you get purple, you are doing so well. And I used Class Dojo. I did Fun Friday rewards. I did the binders and agendas where you fill it out and send really great notes home. And
Yep.
then there's
Yep.
different ways that you can update it to the higher levels. In middle school, it looks a lot different than it does in elementary. And then Julie's got some ideas on high school initiatives.
Yeah. And again, the thing with PBIS is that you want to recognize student behaviors. Students need to hear, they need to see, they need to feel that they are doing the right thing and that their efforts are being recognized. And so I love all of these ideas that are listed out in this presentation because they're super easy to start implementing tomorrow in your classroom if you're not already doing them, or to add on to. And they're also cheap too, which is fantastic. The key really to any of these is that, and really with all of PBIS, as with classroom management, is the consistency piece. So whether you pick one of these, which is a fantastic start, or you pick, I think there's probably 10 or 12 on the side, or you pick all of them, it's the consistency piece that students, again, are hearing, they're seeing, they're feeling that reinforcement that they are doing the right thing. Because with PBIS, you want to support those positive behaviors so that more students actually start to do those positive behaviors. And I'm going to give some examples a little bit later on. But even at the high school level, which is where I spent the majority of my career, all of these things are applicable. I had a teacher who came on board at the high school last year, a wonderful professional who's going back into the classroom after some time. And she was like, I don't know what to do with them. And I said, here, come on into my office real quick. I'm going to give you something. And she's like, well, what is it? Because I take out a Lego box. And in the Lego box I called it my treasure chest, are all sorts of chinky toys from Hot Wheels cars to Legos. There were some Legos in the Lego box, to like stress balls. There was some candy mixed in. There were cool erasers, water bottle stickers. And she took a look at this and said to me, they're going to like this. And I said, just try it. If they don't like it, I'll gladly take my treasure box back because I love it. And it has yet to come back to me because she loves it so much and the kids love it. And so all of these things, kids, no matter what their size, are still kids. And so these are all applicable at all levels. They love that recognition piece. They love that immediate satisfaction, the gratification of I am doing the right thing. And I'm going to keep doing that because it feels really good. And so whether it's a sticker chart, classroom store, the simple act of praising them, that is a human quality. And so again, the applicability of all of these works at all levels. You know your students, you also know you. So what is best? What can you maintain and what are they going to buy into?
And this just is to help you understand that there's stuff that you're already doing that is
Yeah.
PBIS. And this is on the whole school approach because PBIS, and we'll get into it in just a second, is in 3 levels. So there's different tiers. So the stuff you're already doing now is probably perfect for most students. And then it gets a little bit more fine-tuned for others. So just an overview of what is PBIS. We keep saying those acronyms, and I'm just like, oh gosh, I have to remember what I'm talking about. But it's positive behavioral interventions and support systems. And again, many of you are already doing it, but it is sort of a way to counteract all of the negative, the deficit, the discipline side. It is the incentivizing good behavior. And that has been shown time and time again in research to help the students feel like they have buy-in to a system, not so much that they're always getting in trouble. So just want to go over the nitty-gritty. You guys can read, obviously, but it's school-wide. It's a systems, data, and practices approach. And a lot of it is based in equity. It's culturally relevant, and it's systems in your classroom. And it's data driven, which I love that part. My background is in data analysis. So the data driven is huge for us. That's where we make decisions based off of what's really going on.
Yeah. And in the words of Harry Wong, who I'm sure you're familiar with, and if you don't know who Harry Wong is, he's got some top selling books. You can get them on Amazon. But his first 100 days of school, and really it works for all of the school year, but you can also watch him on YouTube if you don't want to buy his books. But in the words of Harry Wong, students don't need more rules. They need procedures and relationships. And maybe that's not a direct quote from Harry Wong, but that's the point of what he's trying to say, that procedures and relationships are the foundation to an effective classroom and effective classroom management. No learning, we know, can occur in chaos. There must be structure. So once procedures and relationships are established, then comes in PBIS, which can reinforce them. It can even enhance them. And so, again, you're right. It's data driven. There's an equity piece. It's empirically supported practices. It's all these things that go along with what you're already doing.
And again, why do I care? Well, it helps us. It helps us as people coaching or discipline. It helps you as a teacher maintaining structure and consistency, just like Julie said. So this is the why, which I always think is important, but this is what is it all about? We've got different tiers. So in PBIS, we have tier 1, which is for all students, and it supports everyone. And that's where you're doing something for the whole class. It's kind of easy to understand with that one. And then it gets a little more detailed. Tier one is universal. So then it goes to tier two, which is targeted student support and targeted learning initiatives. So if Julie, if you want to expand a little bit more on that part.
Yeah, because we would love for all of our students to come to us as these fully formed, perfect little humans. But they're not, or not yet. They come with a variety of needs. They come with a variety of gaps, I think you mentioned, in their learning. They come with a variety of experiences. They come with a variety of values, even including the importance of education. And so PBIS really helps to bridge those obstacles so that structure and consistency and learning, all of that can take place. And so we have these different levels, and you're absolutely right that tier one is that universal level. These are things that you do for all your students and probably already are doing. They are chants and catchphrases that you use to signal that your students are on track. I used to have a phrase in my classroom that was, "We are excellent 100%." And I used to remind them that we always give our 100%. That was my thing. You don't have to earn 100%, but you give your 100%. That was my expectation every day. And I had a class mascot, a stuffed animal that was the poor thing. I hot glued it above my door. And every day on the way leaving, my classroom, they would give it a fist bump like a football team leaving a locker room. And they would say, "I am excellent," as they left the door, as they left for the day. And that was part of my classroom culture. It's about that praise that students want to hear and that we love giving as educators. I have a rule, and that the 2-to-1 rule that I like live and die by in my classroom. Before I am going to correct a behavior, I make sure I positively reinforce 2 students before I redirect 1 student. And I do this for a couple of reasons. It gives that student who's not on task, who's not meeting my expectations, the opportunity for that reinforcement of what my expectation is. So, for instance, I might say, "Amber, I love that you're writing your name on your paper and getting started." And Julie, that is fantastic that you're already on to question number 2. I'm still waiting to make sure that, I'm going to say my husband's name, that Brendan, you're picking up your pencil. I love that you're doing it now. That's fantastic. And so we have that balance. And also at the end of the day, no matter what else has gone on in my day, I leave with more positive in my day. And so do my students. They have heard positive reinforcement double the amount of times that I've ever had to correct anybody. And so the 2-to-1 rule for praise is something that I always commit to in my classroom. Things like, what was mentioned on the side, sticker charts. So that, they see, okay, I have accomplished this. Maybe it's I've met a standard. Maybe it's I've met a goal of 80%. Maybe it's that I followed a procedure well, but that sticker is a great visual representation. So these are all things, and we could keep going and give countless examples that teachers are doing across the board. When we get to that tier 2, it's a little bit harder. This is going to be where you got to go that extra mile, right? You start to really target students based more specifically on their needs. And one thing that I found, and feel free to jump in, Amber, is that when you have the relationship established with the student, simply something as simple as asking them, "What would motivate you?" allows them to have that voice and to get that buy-in to the system that will support all the other things that you're doing. So like if you have a class store, for instance, asking a student, "What would you like to see in the class store?" is something that gives them that opportunity to become involved and to become a part of it. Because we could be selling all the Takis in the world, and if they don't like Takis, they really want zebra cakes. Takis mean nothing to them. So, right? I
Yeah, that is so true. So the tier two is that what group of students do you have in your class that you can do things a little different to get them on task? And I love that idea of those verbal cues of, oh, that's what I need to be doing because I just saw it modeled for me. So tier two, where it gets a little bit smaller within the classroom and gets that student buy-in, that dialogue within them, that relationship building. And then we go into the more specific, and this is where I feel like I end up working with a lot of these students, and that's where it gets to the tier 3, where it's like, okay, what do I need to do specifically for certain students because they are so unique? Is that where I do like a verbal cue or like a physical cue, like a hey, Austin, if you see me come over and be in proximity with you and you see me grab my ear, whatever, like that is me telling you this. Or where I work together one-on-one with a student with very specific behavior supports. That takes a little more work. And a lot of these is based off of all the things that I did wrong as I was teaching, like all of the things where I had to learn and I had to put in the work and I had to go out and look at other teachers. What were they doing? Because some of it gets really hard. And that's part of the adult learning process is modifying our behaviors
Yeah.
and going to others who might know a little bit more and saying, hey, what do you do to get that student involved? And I think that is just pivotal.
I think that's awesome. I say all the time with the educators I work with that the best PD you could ever attend is the teacher next door. So if you don't have your teacher bestie, go out and get you a teacher bestie because there is so much great adult learning, like you said, that can come out of these conversations. These tier 3 students, because I could talk about that too, and teacher besties and how important we are for each other. But these tier 3 students, I call these my drive-by students. So let me explain before we take this out of context. So, drive by, I can't hit up the whole block of students, my entire class, but these are the students that I'm going to stop in and check on. Those are, like you said, those visual cues. I just do a drive by so that I can check in with them. There's something I might specifically be checking in with. It might be for that praise and reinforcement, but one thing I love to do that lets me do it really quickly and keep my students on task and part of the system is I call them the 4 questions. So really quickly, as I'm walking by them, I can ask them these 4 questions. And I always ask these same 4 questions so the kids know. And then they can, again, start to correct their behavior so that they're more positive if that's needed. So the first question is, what are you doing? The second is, what should you be doing? The third is, are you doing it? And the fourth is, what are you going to do about it? And those are my 4 questions. And in a quick instance, without disrupting my instruction, without pulling the student out, without having to stop everything that's going on and completely derail the classroom, those 4 questions, I would say 95 or more percent of the time, help the student to get themselves back on track, which is exactly what we want out of PBIS. We want our students to be able to manage and to regulate and to continue to operate within the structure that we provide for them. But these are the students that need that extra. You're absolutely right. And again, you can't hit up the whole block. So you just have your few that you can drive on by. Absolutely.
I love that. So we're going to take just a teeny weeny break so you guys can think about what we've talked about so far. That was kind of the academic side. And then we're going to talk about a couple of things about like, what does it mean to be on a PBIS team, or what does it mean to take ownership of different initiatives within your school? Because we don't want you to be spending too much of your time or your money or your stress and mental capacity. We want you to say, oh, this is where we get it. And we'll show you where and how in just a moment. So stay tuned. All right, everybody, we are back. We took just a tiny little break and I'm going to start sharing again. And we're going to jump right into what does PBIS look like at my school and Julie's school, and just give you some insight of ideas. And I even have a guest that is going to share some ideas too. He's going to be in person. He did a really cool thing that I'll touch on a little bit later. Okay, so let's get this party started again. Okay, here we go. And slideshow. Bum, bum, bum. So what is this? At my school, I am on the PBIS team, and we have monthly meetings. We've got teachers, and It should always represent diversity and inclusive practices. So different teachers, different subject areas, different amounts of teaching, different ethnicities, different cultural backgrounds, different lengths of time teaching should all be included if possible, in the PBIS meetings. And at the end of the year, I believe in June, there's actually documentation that has to be uploaded to the state. So this is really important. And I'm in charge of getting the info, taking the notes, and getting it to my principal so we can make sure that we are abiding by the PBIS standards. So at my school, we do the monthly meetings, we do student of the month, we do quarterly celebrations, and we do quarterly PBIS stores, which are super duper exciting for the kids, and the teachers get pretty involved in that part too. I've asked recently PTO to be involved because a lot of times teachers are just stretched so thin, and reaching out to another resource is, I think, okay. And they're also very excited to be involved as long as you give them a clear purpose and direction. Those people really are movers and shakers on my campus. At least that's been my experience. And then I always kind of cross reference with discipline data to make sure that we're not celebrating kids who are consistently getting into trouble, but when those kids turn a corner, we are acknowledging them. So it's not a mixed messaging to the rest of the students, because we all like things that are fair, like, why didn't you get in trouble? I got in trouble, like that kind of stuff. I do that as an adult in the workforce. So you want to add to this part?
Oh, I love actually the last part about discipline is fantastic because that gives me a great segue. So, one of the things that we are doing at the high school is that we are, I'm going to call it a rebranding. We are rebranding discipline. PBIS is supposed to support the culture of your school. And again, shift that emphasis from the negative to the positive so that more students are going to want to exhibit those positive behaviors. We're completely goal focused at the high school on increased outcomes, and particularly increased academic outcomes. And so our idea is that through PBIS, by developing a strong culture, we are going to have students who want to come to school, who want to be in classrooms, who want to exhibit these positive behaviors so that they can reach these different incentives. And we have many of the same incentives. So, bringing that back to discipline, one of the things that has been instrumental in facilitating our culture at the high school is we've gotten our discipline team involved. So, we actually no longer refer to them as discipline. They are our team of climate and culture, which is really awesome. So just that rebranding, like I said. And so we have, just like at Bach, we have all different levels of participants in our PBIS team. And I think we are doing many of the same things that you are doing. And the key to that, again, is consistency. I love how you said we celebrate things monthly or quarterly. You have a schedule for those. Everything we do at the high school, again, is consistency. Because once the system, if even if it doesn't fall apart, if it appears to fall apart, like there's a lag between incentives and students don't hear it, they don't see it, they don't feel it, just like at the classroom level. At the school-wide level, the system starts to break down because they aren't experiencing the reinforcement of the system. So we also have a school store. Ours is a mobile school store. And it's a pop-up cart. So it comes out a couple times a week. And I'm going to talk about this later, but the idea is that students should be exhibiting these behaviors at all times. And so they never know, in the sense of our store, when it's going to be out and about, but they've got to be doing the right thing in order to be able to shop in that moment, which is really cool. I love that you talked about PTO involvement. This is something that I love that you have going on at the middle school level. It's something we could definitely improve upon at the high school level, because PBIS involves the community. And something we didn't talk about with Tier 3 is that's when you really get that team together for those few students who need that really targeted intervention and support. And so the more stakeholders you can bring to the table in developing your systems, whether in your classroom or at the school-wide level, and even at the district level, that can make all the difference. So just kind of reiterating a bunch of what you already said.
And again, why does this matter? I can't afford this. I don't have enough time. This is crazy. All of those things have gone through my head. So I want to encourage you and remind you that if you plug into your school's existing PBIS, ask the questions, sit on the group meetings, all those different things, you can do something effective that costs you nothing, helps all the students. It satisfied those levels of tiered instructional support, behavior support interventions, and of course, make sure it reinforces all of the school-wide expectations. I absolutely love some of the things that we've done at Bach with PBIS, and I was super skeptical of some of them, especially this one. We had a bingo hall that Miss Barnhart did in December, and that was loads of fun. The kids were so excited to come. And then the 10 or so frequent flyers that were just always trying to buck the system, they just did not actually end up coming to school that day. It was a shorter day. And it really reinforced the positive behavioral rewards to the kids that really, really try day in and day out. So that was a huge success. Not my idea, super skeptical, but the kids absolutely loved it. We had one that was fun. This was the end of last year with foam. And I thought, oh gosh, that's just going to work for elementary schoolers. Middle schoolers and the teachers lost their minds. There's some fun pictures of just how excited these kids were with the foam. We had a icy Kona ice truck, and they were told ahead of time that they could bring money and actually purchase some different things and a couple more ideas. And I believe that you do the store too. So I don't want to take
Yep.
up all of the info on the store. Love the store. And we have some resources in the folder that we will share a link with you at the end where you, if you don't have something in place already, you can print some stuff out. So if you want to expand on the store aspect.
Yeah, so I mean, the store, when you ask, particularly at the high school level, what do students want? There's two answers they give you. One is that they want money, they want cold hard cash, which we cannot support because we're not a corporate business that has loads of it on ends. Otherwise, we'd be millionaires, which would be fantastic. But they want cold hard cash. That's what a teenager wants, or they want food. And so food is a huge driver, not only I know for high schoolers, but for a lot of our students. And so the store in particular, that's a huge, just a key piece of our store is food. But there are students too who want other things. They want school gear so that they can feel a part of something. And again, we talked about, diverse backgrounds of students and all the different needs, the variety of students that we serve. And so everybody wants to feel a part of something. So giving kids that opportunity to get that merch so that they are a part of our school. They feel as though they fit in. Some of them want updated stuff. So, they want new school supplies in the middle of the year when they can't get them on their own. And so we try and look at, just like you were talking about with building your team and making sure that you include all different stakeholders in your team, that we also have those in what we are offering as rewards through our PBIS system, that they're going to hit all our different groups of students so that somewhere along the line, students will feel that they are a part of this system and that there is something motivating and driving them that they are buying into in the system. Because there's no way one incentive here or there or a single incentive can meet all of those needs. And so the idea and what you're seeing here with the different examples is the variety of rewards and incentives that are offered to students so that students, as they get older, can start to make choices. And I'll talk about that a little bit later at the high school level. Do I want that immediate satisfaction? Do I want those Takis right now? Because I'm walking by in the hallway and I am a teenage boy that is a bottomless pit when it comes to eating? Or do I want to save and wait for something, later on? Maybe I don't have a car yet. And so hanging out with my friends is really hard. We have incentives that are after school hours that provide that social aspect. And so students can start to decide what it is that they want, and they can then buy into that. The recognition piece, you've got Student of the Month up there. That's huge for so many of our kids. So many of our kids feel like, and this is what PBIS is hoping to change, or helping to change, not just hoping, but helping to change, is there's that rule of the 20/80. Have you heard of that rule, the 20% and the 80%? So that, it should be balanced, that we put 80% of our energy and efforts towards 80% of our kids, and we put 20% of our effort and energy towards 20%. But it ends up getting flip flopped. That for our 20%, our high flyers that you talk about so passionately, we end up spending 80% of our energy on that 20% of students, which then really leaves out the bulk of our students, that other 80%. And so, to so many of our students, they feel like, I come to school every day. I do the right thing. I follow the procedures. I meet the expectations. And just the pure fact of recognition, that physical, hey, you did this, is something that fills up their cup. They love that. We do that at the high school. And I walked into a classroom and students were doing a group activity, and so their like binders and stuff were left unattended on their desk, and I happened to walk by, and in the front pocket of a high school student's binder, they could put anything, they could put pictures of their boothing, in that pocket was their certificate. That was what was displayed, and so that to them is the most meaningful thing.
I agree. And I think as humans, we like that, but we're also wired differently. So if it is that tangible, in the moment, instant gratification, or if it's working towards a goal of student of the month, or being one of those quiet students who all of a sudden is getting recognized because they have always done the right thing. So we have a form, it's on the shared drive of an idea, a template where the staff votes for different students of the month based off of upholding the school-wide expectations. And so we encourage our teachers and staff to look for the ones that don't get noticed.
I love that. I love that. Up on your screen, this is just an example of an end of the year event that we did at the high school. We polled our students and said, what do you want? And they wanted the social aspect of an event that was after school, and they wanted to be fed, another common theme. So we threw them the biggest blowout barbecue bash that we could. You see there on one of the pictures that is a 58-foot inflatable. It was the largest one I could find for our big kids. We really rolled out the red carpet. It was in May, so it was hot. We made sure that there was shade with a professional tent. We invited food trucks out for them. We fed them as well. The food trucks were additional. We had a DJ come on out, and we just really listened to them and what they wanted. And this was a major event. This was the culminating PBIS event of the year. Students at the high school collect points throughout the year. It's like their bank account. I know at other schools, like at Bach, there's dollars that they can collect. And so students really worked hard to get enough points to be able to attend. You're going through some other examples. This is me with what we call the Minga cart. Minga is one of our systems, our platforms really at the high school. But talking about that bank account, and here I was just out and about campus around Christmas time. So hanging out, we put inflatables up to decorate the campus, hanging out. But kids walked out of class. They had no idea I was going to be there. I had little bites. It was in the morning. So you're hungry, you need a little extra breakfast. You've got some points. Come on over, and I could quickly, we scan their IDs. Their bank account is linked to their IDs. Their points are linked to their IDs. Scan them, and they could grab what they wanted and go on and get to their next class on time. And then I wheel off to someplace else, and they never know where I'm going to pop up next, but they got to be doing the right thing, and they got to have those points in order to be able to participate in the system. And that reinforces their positive behaviors in the classroom, because teachers are awarding points to students in the classroom. So whether it's something as simple as being in uniform, the bane of probably all of our existence, is your shirt tucked, is your ID on, do you have the proper clothing on? We're asking those questions all day long. And so, are you meeting that expectation? But it could also be, are you helping others? Is it that you're improving your grades? Are you focused and on task, demonstrating slant? I know that's something that a lot of us use across the district. And so kids can earn points at the high school for a variety of different positive behaviors. And then they get to spend them. That's more of an immediate satisfaction kind of thing.
I love that. I love that it's digital too, because that's adapting to what are the kids wanting. I might not want digital because that's not the way I'm wired, because I was, pen paper. But what are my kids wanting? They want it on their phones. And it's not one more reason to take out the phone and have a fight or anything like that at school, as far as like an argument with a teacher. But it is a way to utilize what they're currently using and meet them where they are.
Yeah,
And
one do. So it is an app, a platform that the high school has invested in. And one of the cool things is that between classes, so say the Minga cart is out and about, I have to turn on the incentives so that I can actually sell the items on the cart. And so they actually, if they log into the app, they see, oh my gosh, little bites are for sale somewhere. Like I got to find where they are. But I also have to get to class on time because we don't sell once the 1 minute bell rings, we shut down the cart. So they're quickly, I mean, some of them are like hunting for this if that's what they want in that moment, but it also lets them see their total points. So how many points they've earned for the year. And then they also have a redeemable points number. So what can they spend on different incentives? And again, as they develop, that budgeting piece comes into play. Do I want that immediate satisfaction? Or do I want to save up for something like what's on the screen right now, which was a decathlon? So a 10 event that we threw on the last day before holiday break. And it allowed students to come on out. They had some camaraderie and competition between grade levels. They could either participate in one or more of the 10 events, or they could come and cheer for their peers throughout the events. And the winner, the grade level that won, the entire grade level that was present at the decathlon won a pizza party. And so they competed by grade level. Our juniors upset the seniors and took home the victory. But for about 3 hours, we had a DJ out. We had Duke Energy donate water for our athletes that were participating. We had a variety of events, again, meeting the needs of all in the system. So we had trivia and puzzles. We had strength events. We had speed events. We had really quirky kind of team events, so that anyone who wanted to be involved had the opportunity to. We also paired with our Marine recruiter who works with our JROTC, and he brought out a group of brand new recruits who have just been through boot camp to come on out and work with our students through these events. And it turned into something so special. Our culminating event at the decathlon was a tug of war, and they formed teams by grade level, and they got to do a schoolyard draft of a Marine to add to their team. So the Marines got in with our students, and we just had a great community event, again, supporting the behaviors that we want to see out of these students.
that's just one more absolutely great example of starting something and then it becomes and it takes on a life of its own based off the needs of the students and the time. And it might not come out the same way every time because each year you have different groups of students. But that's what the real bottom line of PBIS is being adaptive to the needs of your students. And I mentioned having a guest in the real live session that we're doing at the high school on Thursday. I had a teacher on my PBIS team named Mr. Kane. And there were, there's like the 10 to 12 students that just can't make it. They can't make it to the PBIS event. So coming up with an alternative for those students, because we don't want to let them fall through the cracks either. He did a whole sort of coaching classroom lesson on taking accountability. And I thought that was
That
priceless and something that is going to be in your resources. So on your Google Drive in the charter, there's a tips folder. And then within that is the PBIS folder. And it's got what you need to have at your monthly meetings, templates for maybe some bucks to use at your store. It has documents on what to look for, what you might want to put into your system, and then just different things that we're gathering. And if you have some things that you want to share, maybe we could open it up to have it as a collaborative folder because our charter system is absolutely fabulous. And we have some incredible teachers and educators within our system that we can all start pulling from because I think that's something we could all do better and sharing with each other. I think that'd be great. And that's what I would like to see in the future.
Yes, that is the teacher next door, the best PD next door. And that's the thing. We're great liaisons between the classroom and I call them the people on the other side of the wall um, in our roles at schools. But so we sometimes take on that more formal piece of being a part of an official team. But when I had my own classroom, turning to my neighbor who probably is either teaching the same subject if you're at kind of the secondary level, because you tend to kind of be in groupings like that, or at the grade level, even, and saying, hey, what's working for you? What are you doing? Hey, I just tried this. You've got to try this. And so you can create these kind of informal teams too. And I think the more that, again, kids can hear, they can see, they can feel it. And part of that is that common language or the idea that it might not look exactly the same in your class and in my class, but there's something that I get excited for. So if we're on the same team, say we teach fourth grade, we're on the same team. I'm gonna say you teach math because you love data. Um, I'll be reading English. That when they rotate and they come to you, there's something I can't wait to go to Miss Johnson's class about because in her class, I'm going to get my sticker of the day. And when they come to Miss Huggins' class, I'm going to spin that wheel. I want to do everything I can to spin the wheel. And so there's the excitement of no matter who I'm with or what I'm doing, I'm working towards that common goal. Because if we can reinforce each other, not just reinforce the system, but really reinforce each other, we're going to get those increased outcomes. And our school culture is going to skyrocket. And, if you come to the live session, we're going to share kind of our personal experience of how we became so passionate about PBIS. But 98% of what we do as educators goes unseen, particularly in the moment. You might have that aha moment years down the line when you run into a former student who says, you changed my life. But 98% of what we do on a daily basis is isolating. It's unrecognized. We're by ourselves with our kids in those four walls of that classroom. And so when things are going great, you want to run up and down the halls and celebrate, but you can't. Um, and when things aren't going so well, suddenly everybody somehow knows about it. And it's awful. It sometimes feels worse than it is. But it can be that insurmountable of how do I keep going? And so if we can increase those outcomes, if we can develop that strong school culture, then it becomes the place you want to be, not just your students, but you also want to be. And so again, we've talked a lot about reinforcing things, and this just kind of perpetuates and reinforces itself and really can just drive you to try and to do and to achieve things that maybe you never thought were possible. The possibilities are endless, and you know this for when we've been talking. Again, we toss out an idea and it's like, let's go for it because we're so invested in these systems.
Yes. And, lastly, the PD points. I think we need to have more opportunities to enrich our education. We're supposed to be lifelong learners, and I fully agree with that. I'm got one more year to do schoolwork before I get my doctorate. I'm so excited, but it's a lot of work. So if you are wanting to get those PD points, we're going to have a code at the end of the live session, but if you are watching it filmed, recorded, send us an email, Amber Johnson or Julie Huggins, and we will get you that code so you can get those points. Unless there's another way to embed it in there, but I'm thinking you're just going to have to be like, hey, those points, you remember you talked about it. It's in that last part of the video. And we'll make sure we get that to you. So that's all we have today. Thank you for spending time with us. I had fun. Hope
Oh,
you did
I,
too.
I had a blast. You guys can't tell at all. They can't tell that we had fun, right?